gonna eat peanut butter, you have to have some jelly. Cupcakes are boring without the frosting. And if you're gonna make tomato soup, you've got to serve it with grilled cheese sandwiches. In the first of this two-part episode, I'm going to be recreating a mid-century recipe for tomato soup salad. Then I'm gonna make it modern by turning it into a creamy roasted corn and tomato soup with just a hint of fresh basil. For the second part of this episode, I will be delving into the ultimate American cheese product, otherwise known as Velveeta. So be sure to come back next week and see how I turn these vintage Velveeta crisps into these caprese grilled cheese roll-ups. But let's digress for a moment and discuss cold, congealed salads known as aspics. Aspics have been around since, well, pretty much forever. But for thousands of years, this consisted mainly of meat entombed in a gelatin coffin. When powdered gelatin became available in the late 1890s, housewives realized this was an easy way to both glamorize and preserve not only meats, but fruits and vegetables as well. According to my research, tomato aspic is a traditional and much beloved Southern dish. As far as I can tell, Southern tomato aspic is essentially a Bloody Mary, but instead of booze, they added gelatin. It was most often served during the summer with crab or shrimp salad and, oddly enough, at Thanksgiving. Don't believe me? Go ahead and Google tomato aspic Thanksgiving. I assure you, it's a thing. Today's vintage recipe is Campbell's Soup's take on a tomato aspic. Begin by softening 2 envelopes of plain gelatin in half a cup of water. Next, you should warm up a can of tomato soup in a double boiler, and then add the gelatin and stir until it is dissolved. Remove the tomato soup from the heat and stir in 6 ounces of cream cheese. Beat until smooth. Chill for 20 minutes and then fold in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1 cup of mayonnaise, half a cup of diced green pepper, half a cup of finely diced celery, and a 1/4 cup of minced onion. Pour into a lightly greased 1.5 quart mold and chill for at least 4 to 5 hours. I'm really starting to appreciate how beautiful Jell-O molds can be. Let's see if I appreciate how they taste. For real? It tastes just like salsa. Like, where are the corn chips? I need corn chips. I think I should have lived in the 50s because this is actually pretty good. If you like salsa. If you don't like salsa, you're totally screwed. It's gonna be terrible. Looks like eating Pepto-Bismol. But like I said, the taste is pretty good. Except of course it's got that weird, gelatinous thing going. I can see this being perfect for like a summer picnic or a light luncheon. But what I'm not understanding is Thanksgiving. Like, what's that about? Tomatoes aren't in season, none of this stuff is, and it's very bright. It doesn't feel, as savory as I would think for Thanksgiving. All in all, I say thumbs up. I think this is pretty good. Not bad at all. I truly believe I was a Southern belle in a former life, so I get why tomato aspic is a thing. However, for those of you who are grossed out by a cold and congealed tomato soup, I'm gonna make it modern by making this creamy roasted corn and tomato soup. One of my favorite flavor combinations is corn and tomatoes with a sprinkling of basil. Unfortunately, these aren't in season all year round, but I have learned a fantastic way of getting the most flavor out of off-season tomatoes and corn by using this one simple trick. I roast them in the oven. Roasting brings out all of the natural sugars and flavors out of an otherwise bland vegetable for not a whole lot of work. Let me show you how. Begin by slicing 3 pounds of tomatoes in half, then de-seeding them using a spoon. And if they're large, go ahead and slice them again into quarters. Next, cut up a sweet onion into fairly large chunks. On a baking sheet, combine the sliced tomatoes with 3 cups of frozen corn and the diced sweet onion. Drizzle with some olive oil and add salt and pepper to taste. Toss with your hands to make sure everything is covered, and then roast in a 375-degree oven for 40 minutes. Stir and then raise the temperature to 400 degrees and continue to roast for another 20 minutes or until done. Once the vegetables are done, remove them from the oven and carefully pour them into a large pot. Add 4 cups of chicken or vegetable broth and stir. Bring to a boil, then lower the heat. Cover and simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. When finished, use an immersion blender to puree until smooth. When it's time to serve, I like to brighten the flavors by adding a splash of red wine vinegar. It sounds a bit crazy, but trust me, if you like bold flavors, it really punches up the sweet taste of the corn and tomatoes. If you like your tomato soup on the sweet side, go ahead and add a tablespoon of brown sugar. I also like to add about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of heavy cream to smooth everything out. To serve, I add a bit of basil and the caprese grilled cheese roll-ups that I'll be showing you how to make next week. Yep, this is it. Oh, it's so good. This is my favorite tomato and corn soup. And now I remember why. It's like eating summer in a bowl. I can taste the roasted tomatoes and the corn. And there's a little bit of sweetness from that, which sounds crazy, but from that vinegar. It actually brightens everything up, which I love. And then I have just that hint of basil right at the end. So good. I just want to bathe in this, it's so good. Though a chilled tomato aspect might not be to your taste, I think we can all agree that a freshly made tomato soup is delicious. And that is how I make it modern. If you liked any of the home goods in today's video, you can find them at my online store, retrodepot.co. Just click the link in the description box below. It's literally aspic, like aspics. I want to say aspect, but it's aspic, known as aspics. It's really hard to say that with a straight face. It's hard for me to be real. Cartoony Bethany is way better. But I have learned a fantastic way to get the most flavor out of off-season tomato and corns using this one simple trick. I know I said corns. Boom shadow, right? Isn't that a song, Moon Shadow?